Okay, welcome back. Sorry, I only have 15 minutes on my free screen recorder, so I have to repeat. Okay, so I think I talked about the definitions, and as I said, the parts in red kind of highlight the difference between sampling and household. So here I have a couple of examples, one of each type. Classify the type of bias and suggest how the survey process could be changed to eliminate bias. Okay, a survey asked students at a high school football game whether a fund for extracurricular activities should be used to buy new equipment for the football team or instruments for the school band. Well, let's see, which type do you think it is? Okay, so we've got sampling, where it doesn't accurately represent the population. Non-response, people don't submit their surveys, household, or response. Now this one is called sampling bias, and the key here is that you're talking about equipment for the school band at a football game. Okay, so whole groups are left out. What about the people that don't go to football games? Okay, so that's hopefully a pretty clear example of sampling bias. Football fans are not representative of the entire school, and you're leaving out entire groups. How to fix it is you would just survey somehow the entire student body. A second example, a random poll asked the following question. The proposed casino will produce a number of jobs and economic activity in and around your city and will generate revenue for the provincial government. Are you in favor of this forward-thinking initiative? Now, let's notice the quote marks. That's exactly what they asked. Now, this would be considered response bias because the wording of the question, it says, if you said, there's a lot of words here that really tell the person that's being surveyed how they want you to answer. I mean, it's forward thinking. There's jobs, there's revenue. Like, why would you possibly say no to that? I mean, it would, if you said no, it would imply you're not forward thinking, you don't care about jobs, you don't care about your taxes. This is what they call a leading question. So it's response bias, leading question. To reduce the bias, it's really easy. You leave everything out. You would just say, are you in favor of the proposed casino? Period. Nothing, don't imply anything in the tone or the words you use. Okay, next type. A science class asks every fifth student entering the cafeteria during all lunches to answer a survey on environmental issues and return the survey at the end of lunch. Okay, this is a classic example of non-response bias. Who's going to hand it in? The surveys will be left all over the floor. So to reduce the bias, you might want to use some sort of an incentive, or you could do a face-to-face. You make them fill it out before they sit down, etc. By the way, this is convenient sampling, okay? But that's not the question. The question here was bias. You have to distinguish between sampling, which is in 2.3, and bias, which is in 2.5. Okay, fourth example, a school principal wants to survey data management students to determine whether having unlimited computer internet access at home improves the success in the course. The principal interviews 4 students from each of the following marked categories. Over 80, 60 to 8, and below 60. Okay, now this is considered household bias. Now, why? It's because you have household bias is when one type of respondent is over or underrepresented because groupings of different sizes are polled equally. You misrepresent the number in certain groups. Okay, so why is this the best answer? Because there's not going to be an equal number of people over 80, 60 to 80, and below 60. But you're having an equal number of people. Maybe 50% of the population gets above 80, and only 10% of the population gets below 60, but you're still surveying 4 people from each group. Okay, so one group may be over or under represented. To reduce the bias, you probably do some sort of a stratified proportional sample. Fifth example, an aid agency in a developing country Wants to know what proportion of households has at least one personal computer. One of the agency's staff members conducts a survey by calling households at random from the telephone directory. Now you have to remember, guys, this is a developing country. They don't have, telephones. They don't necessarily have computers. They might not even have internet, etc. So this is called, it's sort of two types. It could be considered non-response because you don't answer the phone, but it's also sampling. That's the main one really here. A significant number of households, if they don't own a phone, they're obviously not going to be likely to own a computer. So you're not getting a representative group. You're not getting a representative group. You would reduce the bias by either doing face-to-face or cluster sampling. Here's the homework. There's also, if you go to the lesson blanks folder, there's a bias PowerPoint posted there. Now, the very last section is 2.4. 2.4 is very cut and dried. It's basically the types of questions that you put on a survey. There's two types of styles. Please, you must distinguish between the word styles and the word type. Okay, there's two styles. There's open or closed. Open questions are questions that are answered in the respondent's own words. This type of question allows that should be from, not form, from a wide variety of responses, but are more difficult to interpret. Then there's closed questions. Closed questions are questions that require the respondent to select from a given list of responses or has an exact response. These answers are easily analyzed, however, the options presented may bias the results. Okay, and then we have types. Information questions, things like circle the appropriate response, gender, male, female. Checklist questions, or your name would be an information. Remember, a question can be information open, information closed, okay? They could be checklist. Well, checklist is automatically closed. Ranking is automatically closed. Rating, when it's in this kind of a form, is automatically closed. Now, it could be a rating question could be open if they don't give you such a defined list. Okay, so let's look at our checklist question. It's literally a checklist. Which of the following sports do you enjoy? Check all that apply. Ranking. There's ranking and rating. They both start with R. Rank the following in order of importance from most to least or least to most, and you would rank them. Now here, rating. How satisfied are you with the prom? Now remember, in rating, it's one single thing, and you're giving it a scale. With ranking, you have 4 different things, and you're placing them in order of importance. These are pretty straightforward. There's the textbook, and there's the questions. Okay, so that's it for Chapter 2.